Tēnā koutou katoa, and welcome everyone to our Aotearoa New Zealand Lunch and Learn series in partnership with Aotearoa Volunteering New Zealand. My name is Kelsey, and with this series, we intend to support you with all the amazing mahi that you do by inviting along thought leaders in the volunteering space to have insightful kōrero over your lunch break. And I am super excited today to be joined by Sheena Rivington. So Sheena is an accomplished and driven non-for-profit leader with nearly 20 years of experience in strategy, fundraising, communications, marketing, and community engagement. She is the chief executive of Bellyful, a volunteer-led charity nourishing whānau and connecting communities by delivering free meals to families with babies and young children who are without a support network. So thank you so much for joining us today, Sheena, and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Now, just quickly before we kick things off, as I always do, for those of you who are new to the series and who aren't aware of Rosterfy, we've been around for around 8 years now, and we're used by over 3 million volunteers and staff worldwide. We've recently ticked over 150 million hours of volunteering powered by Rosterfy across 35 countries, and we're all about connecting communities to events and causes that they are passionate about. Here is a really quick sample of some of the customers we work with worldwide, supporting them with their volunteer experience end to end. And the fact that we're so highly configurable is our point of difference and makes us super effective at supporting our partners and cutting down on manual processes and spreadsheets so that they can focus on scaling and better connecting with their communities. And here's a few more of our partners in the sporting and event space as well. We did our 9th Super Bowl this year, which was a really cool achievement. But without further ado, let's kick off the discussion. And a quick bit of housekeeping, there is a questions box at the top right-hand side, so please drop any questions in there for Sheena and we will answer as we go, but maybe also have a little Q&A session at the end as well. So Sheena, can you tell us about Bellyful, its history and its mission?
Thank you so much for having me, Kelsey. It's always a bit strange not being able to see people, so I'm assuming that people are in the chat. So Bellyful was born in 2009 by a wonderful woman called Jackie Ritchie. Jackie had people arrive on her doorstep in Pukekohe with home-cooked food after the birth of her second child. And the meals and the baking, they made a huge difference during that really tiring time, making her quite supported and empowered rather than lonely and quite isolated, which is how she felt when her first child was born. And this inspired a bit of a dream of people being able to come together to cook and distribute meals to mums who had new babies and who lacked support. So she shared this vision with her friends, and that led to the launch of our first Bellyful branch in Franklin in May 2009. 16 years later, Bellyful has grown to help people across Aotearoa. We've got 25 branches, all volunteer-led with nearly 800 volunteers. And this year we're aiming to cook and deliver over 40,000 meals to nearly 7,000 families.
Wow.
So yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's an incredible legacy that Jackie has left our communities. So our mission is to nourish whānau and connect communities by bringing our volunteers together to cook and deliver meals with babies and young children, so children under the age of 12 who are without a support network and who are doing it a bit tough right now.
Oh my gosh, sensational. It's such a huge amount of growth and so clearly very needed. I know, anytime you go through a hard time, even a friend bringing over a meal just makes the world of a difference. So it's such important work. And how do you identify and prepare volunteers for leadership roles within Bellyful, having now 25 branches, as you said?
Well, I've been in this CE role for less than a year, so I'll not claim to have all the answers at all. And especially because of so much of what happens at Bellyful happens locally, and we're really proud of that. Each of our 25 branches, they are led by volunteers, and it's usually the volunteer branch coordinator who identifies and appoints their own leadership team, the people that they trust and who understand their own community. At
Mm.
Bellyful New Zealand, as that overarching, as the national organisation, it's our role to really make it as easy as possible for people to be able to do their role. So when Bellyful New Zealand steps in this volunteer leadership space, it's often when a branch coordinator who is a volunteer themselves, they might be
Mhm.
struggling, they might be looking to step down, they need a little bit of help, or they've left already. Something's happened in
Mhm.
their life and they've gone. And our role in these cases is to help them with the leadership succession planning, and to be able to support them and the branch themselves. To do this, we might do a bunch of different things. In the first instance, if the branch coordinator needs a little bit of help, it might just be a bit of a coaching and support conversation. So it might be around supporting them to have some open conversations with their existing team about sharing the load. And my experience in fundraising in particular, is quite applicable here. People don't like to ask for help.
Mm.
People feel like um, it can be just be a challenging space to be in, to say, hey, look, I'm struggling, I need help. And so being able to have that chat with the branch coordinator to say, hey, look, who's in around you, who's in your team? And often we find the branch coordinator, they don't want to burden others. They don't want to ask people because they feel like they're asking for that personal help. So it's really important to bring it back to the why. You know, your volunteers are choosing Bellyful. They're choosing to give their time. They're here because they want to help. So how about sharing some of those challenges that you're having so your branch is best prepared to meet the needs of your community? And often through that conversation, and we've had a couple of them recently, and it's been amazing to see people step up within their own team saying, of course I can help. Of course, let's do this.
Mhm.
Another way we might help is, or we identify and prepare volunteers, is we might need to recruit and advertise for new branch leadership roles. And we've got a pretty thorough onboarding program that helps with that. So we might, in the first instance, we'll ask the local branch, where can we find and where do you think we should be looking for people? We'll
Mhm.
work with the branch themselves to see which networks. If we need to, we'll open it up out to the local volunteering New Zealand branch network there, and we will help on board and follow through that process. Um, and and I guess the last thing that we're doing is that we're in our first year of building a training and development program, that's looking about how we can talk about the leadership opportunities and pathways within Bellyful, so it's not a surprise that these roles come up. You know, crikey, what do you mean we need a new branch coordinator? You know, it's something that's just part of the fabric of our program itself. Um, Something that we also do, and part of this is that we're encouraging branches to look firstly within themselves to see who's there, and
Mhm.
often the leader might be someone who's quietly showing up, and kind of leading. What we'd love to see a little bit more of that. um, and also, people think that we need to look for the ready-made leaders. It might be someone that's never, they haven't held a role themselves. So it's kind of more about the personality and that. So yeah, so that's in summary kind of what we're doing here. Yeah, that's it.
I think I love what you said about the importance of, I suppose, empowering those at the local level because they're the ones that really know their communities. And so that's where the impact comes from. And then also, as you said, yes, someone doesn't have to be, already a leader, but they could just be so inspired by the mission and so dedicated and such a believer in what you're trying to do. And that's really the building blocks for being able to inspire others in their community as well to get involved. So I think it's so
Absolutely.
beautiful the way that, yeah, your view on that within Bellyful. I think I just love it. You mentioned your leadership development program. What does this involve, and how did you decide what to include?
Yeah, that's great. So we've titled our new volunteer development program, Filling Bellies, Filling Minds. And
Oh, wow.
we, excuse me, I've had a bit of a cold, so if I cough. Um, we developed this program with a few kind of thoughts in mind. And my second week in the role, I went to a volunteer in New Zealand Hui, the one in Christchurch last year. And there was one speaker who talked about their experience with volunteers and their volunteer leaderships. And they say, you know, we often go looking for that ready-made leader instead of creating inspiring pathways for people within the organisation, which is what I referred to a little bit in the last question. And that really stuck with me because, you know, what are we actually doing internally? Who are the people that we already have, and how can we really inspire them and give them some tools? Fast forward another 4 weeks now, I was 6 weeks into the role, and it was relatively intimidating, but wonderfully so. We had every 2 years, Bellyful brings together branch leaders from across the country for a national hui. And this was in Wellington. And this is an amazing weekend where our branch leaders come together, they learn, and they chat, they laugh. It's just all things Bellyful. And at this hui, so I was 6 weeks in the role, and I stood up and I said, you know, what are some of the challenges that you have in your communities? You know, what's actually happening on the ground? What's happening within your branches themselves? And what are some of the things that are within your role that's really challenging? And what can we do? What are some of the ideas that you have to make it easier for you? And people love to chat. People love to share these kind of challenges, and you're getting everyone in the room. You're getting 25 incredible, predominantly women. We had a couple of men in the room, but and this just opened up the floor. And they told us, we want more training, we need more tools and support to feel confident about about this. And these are some of the challenges that we've got. When you're in a workplace and you're an employee, you know, you expect training and development to be part of the role, especially for our branch leaders. Some of our branches, they're leading maybe a team of 15. Our smaller ones might be a team of 10, but our larger ones, they're leading a team of 50, 60, 70 people. And there's lots of moving parts that go with that. So when we looked at across those kind of three things, we thought, what can we do to invest in our volunteer leaders? And this is where Filling Bellies. So we're looking at kind of 4 key pillars, I guess, of this program. The first one is around leadership. What are we doing to grow confidence skills and that succession planning, and to be able to do that, because they are our face, they are the ground, they're our front line. What are we doing to support their well-being? You know, when you're in a charity space and they have to make a call on the ground whether or not they've got enough meals to feed a family who's struggling. If they don't have enough meals, that can take a toll. That can take a real toll to turn people away. And in leadership roles also, you also need to have that energy, right? The energy to keep going, look for opportunities. This is what we need to do, and that can take a toll. So what are we doing to recognise that and wrap that wellbeing support? What are we doing from start to go around our onboarding and retention and process? And so we're so excited that we've got Volunteering New Zealand with the best practice guidelines. We are following that. We've got the steps, and we're just working our way through each one and tweaking each one as we go along. And recognition is a really big part of this as well, recognising our volunteers and the leadership roles that actually do this. It's early days. For this year, we have partnered with Dr. Ellen Joan Ford, and she's got this amazing belonging, autonomy and purpose approach to leadership, that when people feel like they belong, they've got autonomy, so they know what they can do and they've got a real purpose, then people thrive and they can bring that whole team with them. So we've got 8 of our branches who have representatives of different levels within the organisation, different roles. that are
Mhm.
participating in that. And yeah, so it's early days, but we've been quite encouraged with how it's going, and yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, extremely exciting. Um, in terms of those volunteers that are newer to leadership, because we've spoken about creating these pathways, what kind of support or mentoring have you found the most effective for them?
Yeah. Uh, you've got the most practical tools, so what is when I started, we looked at what is it that we're actually giving the branch up front. So where is the information? How are we presenting that information? Can they just make it easy? Time is the most precious thing that someone can give to your organization, right? And when they sign on, do you want them to be spending time faffing about trying to work out your systems? Or would you prefer that they could easily open up something and go to it and use it straight away? And
Mhm.
so we've been looking at our systems and improving the tools that we are giving to say, this is what we need from you as a branch to lead it.
Mhm.
And here are the roles and here are things. So we're really challenging ourselves to make sure that our systems, we're not quite there yet. So I think it's always going to be a work in progress, but providing those practical tools and making it easy. Um, Connecting with our support team. We've been quite proactive. We increased some hours on a staff member to make sure that we actually have time to be able to troubleshoot when things get a little bit tough, trying to log into SharePoint and trying to do these
Mhm.
things, the pain points.
Yeah.
And also in connecting with our branches as well, with the other branches and other people around, that you might be sitting in Hamilton or Hawke's Bay or Whirianga or wherever you are, but you're actually a part of
Mhm.
a really awesome network and there's lots of other people. So it's a combination of those things have been really, really, really helpful.
That is, I think, one of the main things that we hear at Rosterfy when we have new organisations come to us. They usually come to us because they say, we've got a group of really passionate volunteer leaders and they're burning out because our systems are so, well, they're bogged down by admin and the systems are not working and they're frustrated and we're losing people because they've come because they're inspired by our mission, and then our systems just aren't built to scale, and so they're not actually doing the things that they want to do. They're doing all of the administration side of things, and that's, for me, talking to organizations day in and day out, that's such a major focus for so many. And so in terms of early signs of volunteer burnout for Bellyful, um, have you learned what to look out for and how do you respond?
Yeah, from conversations with our branch leaders and staff and volunteers, often withdrawal. People are they might be missing meetings. They're not being so quick on the replies anymore. Decisions might not be being made. So we're kind of seeing some, it's difficult to know what's actually happening. And people might say, oh, look, it's fine. I don't need any help. It's fine. I've got it. It's fine. Generally, if as a woman myself and a mum myself, and I'm saying things that, it's fine, it's probably not really fine.
Yeah.
And so what we are doing, getting to know who your people are and trying to normalize that actually in that leadership roles and that life gets tough for all of us and things change. And this is your volunteering gig. You've got most of our volunteers have got families, they're working, they're often the type of people who have put their hands up and volunteering for a number of different organisations too. It
Mhm.
might be that they just need a little bit of a break. They might need that conversation with your team that help to say, hey, look, I need a bit of help right now.
Mhm.
They might need, look, we need to help them with a little bit more recruitment, and building
Mhm.
up that confidence and that trust to be able to have the conversation to say, hey, it's okay that it's not okay right now.
Yeah.
But what we do to support you through it, if we can be a bit proactive in knowing what's happening, then we're in a much better way to help navigate what that end result looks like. And sometimes it might be that person just says, look, I'm done. I've done my time and I'm really happy. And we should be in a place to celebrate what they have been able to give over that time.
Yeah, absolutely. But do you think as well, some of it can be around if you define or you help your volunteers or you encourage them to set those healthy boundaries earlier, they can remain committed for longer?
Absolutely, absolutely. And we had our at our hui last year, we had Gemma McCaw as our keynote speaker, and she
Yeah.
spoke to us about how it's really important to care for yourself before others. And we actually
Hmm.
walked away with some really great tools in our kitty, and everyone talked about it afterwards, that went along to the hui. And one of the things that the mantra that she talked about was that we get to do this and how that's a privilege, that and for us, it meant that we actually choose this. And as volunteers, you do get to do this. What an awesome place to be, but you choose to do it. And actually, if it's not filling your cup anymore, it's okay to put the boundaries around you to show what it is that you actually need to stay and to be able to do this, so those healthy boundaries, or to
Hmm.
say, okay, this is what I need and these are the steps that I need to be able to do this. And we've used that Gemma's keynote speech there to be able to talk about that daily, as like across our organization. Like check in, how are you going? Do we need to put some boundaries and things in place, and what is it that we need to do to support you with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned before, and I think you're right in saying it's a very maybe it's more a female trait to say I'm fine, I can do it, and maybe not want to ask for help so much when you need to. And so, what has helped to shift that team mindset from do it all myself to actually build a team around me and rely on them when I need to?
Yeah, I think that leading by example,
Yeah,
at Bellyful New Zealand, we're really open ourselves to say that we can't do what we do without our branches. I'm quite
yeah,
open to say, I don't know all the answers. I need, this is the skills and these are the tools that I bring to the table. But hey, you've got these skills and that tools and those experiences. So let's kind of work it through together. We're quite open and to say that we're part of a team and we're learning as well, and we're not necessarily going to get this right the first time, but if we've got a great vision, a great plan, then with the right people we'll be able to get there. Historically, Bellyful New Zealand, there was we only communicated directly to our branch coordinators, and that actually left a bit of a vacuum to other branch leaders. So other branch leaders didn't have a relationship with us. They didn't necessarily know what kind of responsibility and role the branch coordinator actually had and what they did. So what that
yeah,
meant is when the branch coordinator is struggling or something's happened and changed in their life, they didn't necessarily have the support to kind of wrap around, and we didn't know who to go to within the branch to give a bit of support either. So some of the subtle things and initiatives that we've done to change that has been introducing, our Friday feast email from our team at Bellyful New Zealand that celebrates what's happening across the branches, and we just really highlight at really high level what are some of the successes and the challenges and the opportunities that we're looking forward to. So we're normalising what's actually happening across Bellyful New Zealand, and people are more likely to say, oh, hey, we're actually struggling with that too, or hey, that's cool, that's great, and oh, they're working
yeah,
on that. So it's an opportunity for us to just continue to kind of foster that team environment and
awesome.
culture.
And speaking of when you do have those leadership transitions, we know this can be something that can be it can not challenge some of the stability sometimes, and even more of the local centres. And I've heard that from many organisations. What are some ways that you look to preserve that team morale and continuity during those big changes?
I think getting to know people on the ground and building trust and rapport, I've talked about that before. So if you know who you're actually having a conversation with from the start, then that goes a long way.
Yeah,
But for us also, I think, and as an organisation, charities, it's providing opportunities to shape what your organisation actually looks and feels like. You're all involved. You've been attracted to the organisation. You've got a common
hmm
factor there. And so we recently completed a major strategy refresh, which we called Shaping Our Future, which was basically we had to redo our strategic plan, right, for the next 3 years. Ours had ended.
Yeah.
How could we do, what was the opportunity here? The opportunity was that all of our volunteers had an opportunity to provide an input on our vision and mission and who we serve. We asked the question, who are we here to serve? And what should our strategic priorities be? Bellyful of New Zealand should be here to make it easier, and we're the paid staff. So what can we do and what should we be focusing on? And so all volunteers had that opportunity. Our branch leaders had a higher level of involvement. They could give feedback on the workshops and involve people and give, on the draft versions, and they could involve people in their team at the right amount, that was appropriate. And now we're actively delivering and reporting back to them. So that way, when things are getting tricky and we don't quite get things right, we're able to come back to why. Why are we here? Why is Bellyful here? Why are we doing this? Why are we working on this right now? Why do we need your support to be able to do this? And it's just that gentle reminder that, oh, yeah, that's right. We're doing this because you told us this part was really dumb. This doesn't work quite well. And that's why we're going through a bit of a rocky change process at the moment, or this is why we're doing it. And oh, cool, look, it actually worked. Or it hasn't, let's tweak it a little bit. But that kind of team holding on to our why and our vision, I think is really important.
Absolutely. We're coming into our last question, so if anyone has any questions, please feel free to drop them in the question box. We've only got a couple of minutes left. It's been such insightful conversation, so thank you, Sheena. What advice would you give to an organisation that are just beginning to explore volunteer leadership development? Punchy question for the end.
Start by listening and ask the question, what do
Yeah.
you need? Your volunteers know the organisations, in and out. They generally know, and communities know what they need to help solve their problem. So ask what they need and don't wait for perfection. Sometimes we can sit there and just thinking, oh my goodness, we've got to wait till it's perfect. Start with the small things that can build up that trust and rapport and a little bit of momentum, and invest in your people. Your volunteers, invest in them, because for us, they're our biggest asset. They're our biggest. If we don't have our volunteers, we don't have an organisation.
Yeah, absolutely. We have had one question come through, just wanting to know how Bellyful have used technology to solve some of your challenges.
We have, we've got a really, we invested quite a bit into the SharePoint, and into SharePoint, and we use that now as our main tool. So through that, we use our teams. We do quite a bit of virtual team connections and things like that, but it's also a way for our branch leaders to use the chat functions and to be able to connect that way. And when you set it up right, you can do like little internal kind of web pages where you've got the latest updates and things like that. So that's probably our biggest win so far.
Awesome. Perfect. We are unfortunately coming to the end of time. So thank you so much, Sheena, for your time today and just for your knowledge and experience. I think there was just so many insightful pieces in there that I'm definitely taking away. And it's just so great to hear about I really loved how you always just came back to the local communities, and even though you're obviously at a national head office sort of level, always just feeding back from what they're wanting and what they're needing, and listening and really engaging with them. And I just thought, so many great pieces that people on the call can take away today. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
For anyone on the call that would like to learn a little bit more about Rosterfy or schedule in a chat, please scan the QR code here. Here's my information on here as well. Mind you, will probably received an email from me if you're joining this webinar series today. Our next one will be on the first Tuesday of September, so please look out for that, with the guest to be confirmed, but a couple of amazing ones lined up, just like Sheena. So mā te wā, everyone. Thank you so much for sharing your lunch break with us, and we hope to see you again on our next session. And once again, Sheena, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me, Kelsey.